have him with us a lot when he was spending so much time with all of you. We really missed him. We really missed him. But I knew, and I never begrudged him the time he needed to spend with you guys, because I knew it was for his heart and his soul. And he needed all of you, and he loved all of you. I mean, oh my God, in the 6 years that he was living with me before he passed, all he talked about was every one of you. I mean, I don't know your faces, but I know the names from everything that he said about all of you guys. I mean, you brought love and kindness into his life. And for that, I am grateful to every one of you. And I thank you all for being here today. I'm so moved by it. I just can't even stop. I'm so sorry. But I'm so moved to see that you loved my precious brother so much. You can see from the picture, it was precious. And he used to get so angry with me for calling him my baby brother. He would say, I'm a man. And what I said to him, not even a month before he passed, I said, what you don't understand too is I have memories of you don't have of yourself. I said, I remember the infant that was brought home that I fell in love with, that had these adorable dimples and blonde curls, and it was like my own personal baby doll that was alive. And I took care of you. Anne-Marie and I, my older sister, who's not here, my mother made us take each a twin a week, and we would switch every week. 1 week Larry, 1 week Skip. And of course, we always fought over Skip because he was so sweet. And he would wake up, I mean, and this is true, I swear to God, he would wake up as a baby, ta-ta-ta-ta-ta, just so nice. Larry would wake up, you know, crazy. And we never understood why that was. So it was so much easier to take care of Skip than it was Larry. He was always so nice, and I must share with you, when he came to live with me 6 years ago, I was so happy. I was so thrilled. I mean, I was sorry for him that he needed to come live with me, but I was so happy to have him back, to have him be with me again, because he was a thrill to live with. He was absolutely a thrill to live with. He was thoughtful, he was kind, he was helpful. In fact, since he's been passed, there have been numerous times when I've actually talked to him and I said, I miss you so much, and I can hear him saying, yeah, because I cleaned the house. And there is an element of truth in that, okay? Because I have 3 dogs I'm allergic to, whom he loved, and I must share my one dog, Barnum, that Skip was very close to. Oh, God, it was really awful. He wouldn't leave Skip's room. And he wouldn't eat for the first week. It was really awful. Skip is a lover, as y'all know. And he and Barnum were pals. And in fact, the night before he died, Chris came down and saw Skip was giving them all Oreos. And Chris said, what are you doing, Uncle? Because Barnum has a serious weight problem. And he said, what are you doing, Uncle? And Skip says, buying friends. He is a lover. He is a lover. And I must share with you, I was so upset the day that I went to make the arrangements for his urn that's behind me. I was so upset. And I'm leaving the Neptune Society. I didn't realize what part of town I was in. I hadn't been looking at my surroundings whatsoever, and I just kept saying over and over out loud to him, God, I love you so much, Skip. I love you. I love you so much. And right there goes the Amtrak train, which I had just taken him to the morning before, right? And I go, you talking to me? You. And I look over, and there's his favorite restaurant. Not Martin's, not Shula's, Checkers. And I'm like, okay. I get it, thank you. And of course I was crying really hard. I'm like, you're talking to me. I know you're talking to me. And 2 weeks before he passed, he was talking to my son and I one night because he was questioning God, if God existed, and where his twin brother was, and our mother and our father. And he asked me, he goes, do you believe that there's something after here? I said, absolutely. And he says, why? I said, well, for one thing, Larry has talked to me, Skip. I know you don't want to believe that, but he has. And he goes, well, what did he say? I go, well, you have to understand. It's a different method of communication. it appears, okay? From what I've experienced, a different method. Although my great Aunt Rose did actually tell me not to cry in her wake, and that flipped me out completely, because I actually heard her say, "Don't cry, Mary Beth." And since nobody called me Mary Beth but the family, I knew it was her, and I'm like, oh my God. But Larry, his twin brother, which I'll share with you, when he passed, oh my God, it was the first in our family, and he was the youngest. And the youngest of the twins, and all of us were freaked. I mean, we didn't know how to cope with the departure of someone that intimate. I mean, as it was, Skip lost Bo, his best friend, when Bo was 19. That was probably, to that point, the most difficult experience we had all had. But when Larry passed, I mean, we couldn't even breathe. It was such a cloud of sorrow and sadness around us. And I had a dream with Larry one night, and I'm sobbing, "Why, Larry, why did this have to happen to you?" And Larry, and if you knew Larry, and you knew what a charmer he was, and what a flirt, he turns around and does this to me. "Why not me?" And it woke me up. I mean, I just woke up immediately, and I wasn't crying, and I'm like, well, exactly, why not, right? I mean, because we all have to pass at some point. I mean, that's just the way it goes. If you live long enough, you're doomed to lose somebody you love at some point. Well, I'm tired of it, I can tell you. We've lost 4 in our family. We were a family of 7. There's only 3 of us right now on this earth, and it's not fun. But coming here and seeing all of you today is such a comfort. My God, I was teasing Skip. If I died, you guys would be there. That'd be it. I come in and I see all these wonderful people. It's like, this is great. Skip was popular. He had friends. He had people who cared about him. How can I not be happy about that? The more the merrier. He enjoyed life. He did, and it was a thrill to cook for him because he was such a good eater. I loved it. Oh God, I did. I loved, and he not only was a good eater, but he was appreciative, and he'd tell you, that he liked them, which was nice, as a person who would cook. And I would race home from work just to cook for him, not for the rest of us, we didn't care, but just to cook for him for 6 years was a thrill.
Skippy would when he'd come over, Kathy would cook, and I said, "Meat's a little dried out." And she'd go, so Skip, what do you think? Kathy would say, "Salad's good."
Yes,
salad's good.
always took the positive,
Yeah,
right?
I said, "Thanks, Skip, throw me under the bus."
Always, that's right. They used to say you don't have to be disagreeable to disagree. I mean, he must have said that 1,000 times, and I would go, all right, whatever. But I thank you all. I don't have words to say thank you enough to all of you for coming here today, or for being with him, or spending time with him, or talking to him, or sharing space with him, sharing experiences and everything else. I know that a lot of you aren't aware of some of the challenges he faced early on as a child. He was born with deformed tonsils and adenoids, which meant he couldn't breathe through his nose when he was born. He had a speech impediment. He was dyslexic. He had so many challenges as a little guy, a really little guy. And of course, all those kind of challenges back in that era, when things were not politically correct, when things weren't as aware as we are now, resulted in a lot of suffering for him on so many levels. And I was always so god darn protective of that kid. I mean, I just wanted to shield him from whatever I could, which of course resulted in the maternal and the baby brother scene. He's a man, okay, but he's still a baby brother. And I had to laugh because after he passed, my older sister was forwarding to me, because I was putting together an album for our family, all the wonderful emails we got in the mail. All of them start with Anne Marie saying, "Well, my baby brother passed." I thought, yeah, Hughie's looking at this and not too happy, because for whatever reason, that was uncomfortable for him. And I tried to explain him, you don't understand. We took care of you. There's no way you're not going to ever be, because I have this beginning of you, I have the middle of you, and then the absence when he was with all of you, which was fine, and then I have this with you. I said, Steph, I've got your life in my heart. I said, not just who you think you are, I've got who you don't even know you are in my heart. And he was so picture, you'll see how much he and Kathy looked alike. And everyone thought that it was Kathy and Skip that were the twins because Skip was the same size as Kathy. Larry was much smaller as they were growing up, which you can even see in the picture. So everyone thought that Skip and Kathy were the twins, but when he was really little and his hair was all full of blonde curls, we used to dress him up in Kathy's clothes. And we called him Susie.
That answers a lot of questions.
So I'm sure that's part of where the anger and resentment comes from. You know, but he was so cute.
It's finally coming out. It's all making
We
sense.
have been movies of him, and they are absolutely cherished because he is so cute. And the most cherished family movie we have of him, and unfortunately we don't have it here today, and I swear to God, it is priceless. We were going to send it in to America's Funniest Home Video. Skip was maybe 4. He was trying to climb the tree. And he gets up to a certain branch, and he's sitting, and my mother's taking movies because this is a big deal. And he was always so smiley when he saw the camera. He's smiling like that, and he's holding on. And then he starts to fall, and he's like, oh. It's actually captured. And he's, and then grabs it. And it is so precious to see that little face get all kind of freer and then grab the branch and actually catch himself from falling. And that is our absolute favorite of Skip as a little guy. But anyway, I'm talking an awful lot here and I shouldn't be. But it's such a wonderful thing to see all of you. I mean, really, it's a blessing. It is a blessing. I wish I knew you all by first name. I wish that I had a chance to hang with all of you with him, but that was not to be. And that's okay. You were his family for a very long time. You provided that love and understanding and companionship at a time when he really needed it. And I recognize, I want you to know, I do understand and recognize it was something that we couldn't give him. We couldn't give it to him. I wish I could, but you guys did. And you helped him achieve in his life what was the most important thing to him. And he always used to play down his accomplishments, and I used to say to him, Skip, you gotta understand something. Where you've been, where you came from, and what you have survived, and how you are still intact. Your spirit, who you truly are, inside, that love, that sweetness, that naivete, whether he wanted to believe it or not. He was quite naive. I said, you're still you. I go, that's a gift from God, that you didn't lose yourself in all this craziness, because a lot of people do. If people had experienced the kind of things he experienced as a child, you end up being a child abuser yourself. You end up being a hater. You end up being bitter and vulgar. And he was none of those things. None of those things at all. So I'm very proud to have been his sister. I'm very happy I had the opportunity to provide a home for him in his time of need. I'm very happy that during our childhood I was able to try and protect him as much as I could from what was going on. And I know now he knows the truth. He knows the truth. He knows how much he is loved and cherished. If there was any doubt, okay, he knows. And he knows that, of course, I think of him as a man, but I also think of that little guy and the little in-between guy and then the royal pain-in-the-ass teenager. And, you know, I got the whole picture here. And I love every single moment of every hour of every day that he walked this earth. And I'm truly, truly grateful. And I want you to know that there were times for him, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, where he felt tremendous guilt. And I needed to remind him that the fellowship principles that he shared with me, at least, were not about guilt. It was about overcoming that horrible feeling about yourself. And as I said to him, the reason that nothing that ever transpired during your life in the era of your using ever affected me negatively is because I knew, number one, I always knew the whys and the wherefores, but I also understood that wasn't you, that was just the person who was using. And I knew that if you were sober, this wouldn't have occurred, or that wouldn't have occurred. I never felt that he needed to feel guilty or sorry or any of those things for anything that transpired during that time. And it was a source of contention between us because he didn't realize that it isn't even a question of forgiveness. There's nothing to forgive. You know, he was suffering and he was living in a life of suffering. And then he came out from the wilderness. I used to call it the wilderness. Skip had many years in the wilderness. Not 40, thank God, but he had years in the wilderness. And then he came into the light of who he always truly was and got to be himself. And every one of you, whether you know it or not, contributed to that gift of him being able to be himself. And I can never thank any of you enough for that, ever. You loved him at a time when he needed space from us, and so I am so grateful